Unsurprisingly, the names lighting up the columns yesterday were Jeremy Corbyn and Boris Johnson, hot on the heels of the leadership debate on ITV on Tuesday night. Here's what the papers had to say. The Daily Telegraph. The Daily Telegraph leader is clear that Boris Johnson is the best bet to lead the UK after the general election, writing that judging by the debate, the country must pray that Mr. Johnson wins re-election. Mr. Corbyn, according to the paper, sought to portray himself as an avuncular, unifying figure when his party's policy prospectus would wreck the economy and delay Brexit, thereby adding to the uncertainty that has paralysed politics and business. Even though the cause of the election is Brexit, Mr. Corbyn hardly mentioned it in his opening and closing remarks, preferring a reprise of Labour's 2017 pitch to make an offer of real change for the many not the few while demonising wealth creators. But nothing can happen until Brexit is resolved, and Labour's policy of a fresh renegotiation followed by another referendum is a recipe for greater dither and delay. But the clash was a deeply unsatisfactory event and not the gladiatorial set to that was billed. It was not so much a debate as a succession of truncated sound bites, with Julie Etchingham never allowing an argument to develop between the two men. For Mr. Johnson, this debate was a gamble. Incumbent prime ministers, especially those leading in the polls, rarely agree to such an encounter because the risks are so great of something going wrong. But it was a gamble that largely paid off. The Times leader noted that Boris Johnson took a risk agreeing to the debate, but the Prime Minister failed to land a decisive blow against Jeremy Corbyn. Since Mr. Corbyn only needed to exceed rock-bottom expectations, the risk was that this debate was Mr. Johnson's to lose. The Labour leader's inability to answer whether he would back leave or remain in a Brexit referendum on a deal that he would have negotiated provoked laughter from the audience. Mr. Johnson, by contrast, succeeded in grabbing every opportunity to emphasise his central message that only he could get Brexit done, which also provoked groans from the audience. But, too often the Prime Minister waffled and came across as repetitive, while it was Mr. Corbyn whose answers on domestic policy often came across as more coherent. As during the leadership contest last summer, the debate showed again that Mr. Johnson is not comfortable with this kind of encounter. Whether that will have any bearing on the election remains to be seen. It is unclear what effects such debates have on public opinion. The longer-lasting effect of the debate will only become clear over the coming days as the highlights are clipped, shared and twisted on social media. Meanwhile, for more on this story, visit the news article link.